So, you've come to learn about Tyr. Well, you've come to a good place. Let's get into it. So I do just want to preface this. This is my personal experience. I'm still what some may call a wee pagan. Tyr for me, first and foremost, was an archetype. I've been exploring spirituality for quite some time now, almost about 10 years, just looking into different things and kind of dabbling and playing around with it. But I never really settled on one thing like this because nothing really spoke to me in this way. I can pinpoint times in my life that were very traumatic, and I'm not going to name names or explore too much of the plot, but as a kid, I had lost my mother. I was taken overseas to some family, and school was pretty harsh. I had to deal with kids there and bullies and even corrupt teachers who were kind of drunk on their own power. And it was very upsetting for me. But really, when I look back at it now, it was a blessing in disguise. I had hardship, and from that hardship, I learned to kind of get upset and then get angry about it, like transform that energy into anger. And then sometime down the line, I also learned how to turn the anger into like good energy to use and build things and do good in the world rather than destroy. And that was a very, 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 very dark place in my life. And first and foremost, Tyr, before he was a deity to me, he was an archetype. And I didn't know what the presence was in my life that was helping me get through the hardship that I was facing. But it turns out it was the Tyr archetype. I gained a lot of wisdom from those days, and I tried putting my best foot forward and, trying to talk and avoid violence and arguments and such things and kind of understand both perspectives. And if I was wrong, I was humble enough to accept it and, do what I could to fix said dilemma. I was kind of dabbling with the major religions first. I did a lot of Islam, a lot of Christianity. Scratched the surface of Judaism. Didn't really appeal to me too much because they're all kind of the same thing. So I started looking into, the Greek gods and the Norse pantheon and the Wiccan deities and such. And for a long time, my favorite was like Hinduism, Buddhism sort of beliefs. Reincarnation and karma, and believing, if you be the best person you can, then you'll reach enlightenment faster, and all the things that come with a belief in Hinduism. But at some point, I called out to Tyr. I tried to make communications with him. He intrigued me very much because, being that we know very little about him, and I tried to, in my mind, flesh him out as much as I can and find as much information as I can about him that we have. Which didn't turn out to be too much. I think there's 2 or 3 mentions of Tyr in stories or kind of related to a story somehow. The Binding of Fenrir being the most major. So I decided to talk to him to see if I could get through to him and maybe, communicate with him in a way that would give me some answers. So I tried dream work and such things that didn't really pan out too well. So what I did in turn is I embodied the attributes of Tyr to the best degree I could, at least in terms of life. Justice, kindness, compassion, strength, honesty, those things. And as I developed myself, I started to get more communications with Tyr. In fact, once I saw him in a dream, and he's not a very extravagant god, at least in the way he puts himself into grooves in my life where he appears. He's like, yeah, I'm here. I got you, you know. I saw a dream of him one day where he just looked at me, smiled, and then I woke up, and that was it. So, a little bit about my practice. I found that Tyr likes brandy, because mead isn't widely available where I'm at. It's pretty far away to get it, pretty expensive to get it, and yeah, there's just too many variables. But he really likes brandy, and other sorts of wines that are more on the redder side. I do rune readings to communicate with Tyr. I have a set of Elder Futhark, one of those little divination rune bags. And, you know, the communication seems to go well through there. I've also used tarot cards or oracle cards in the past, so you could do that, but I feel like runes are just the easier way, the way that make more sense, and it's just, the bottom line is, it's also more aesthetically pleasing, so there's also that. Now, I've celebrated, at this point, the Mabon, the fall festival that just went by. I've been noticing a lot of the just gods in general, a lot of their presence in my life. There's been a bit of Odin, a bit of Loki, a bit of Freya. So it kind of jumps around now, since the offering that I made. And yeah, that's my take on Tyr, how I found him. And yeah, I carry Tyr with me every day almost. Got a little blade here. Not sharp, but it is hand forged. Carry this with me to remind me of Tyr throughout my work days and such. And I also have been running a couple of experiments with the younger Futhark, being that I want to understand the symbols, but I sort of don't trust the book that I got, for various reasons that I may go into later. But I want to experience the runes for myself, so I've been taking them with me, carving them if need be, or just taking them from the older Futhark runes that I have. And I'll study the poem, I'll study kind of the meaning that's given to something, but I don't go too hard on it. I just want to memorize it, know what it is, and kind of compare and contrast what my experience throughout the day was. So I am doing that, and I journal it every day. I can go over those things if you would like in future videos. And I do have the Havamal by Jackson Crawford and the Prose Edda Oxford edition on the way. So when those get here, we will probably have a lot more content to go through. I'm super excited to read them and really get into the nitty-gritty of things. Otherwise, have a fantastic day, and skål.